Welcome to today's webinar. I'm really thrilled to be joined by Jackson Brigg of FuseWorks. And today the topic is getting the most from your tech stack, which I know is a topic that is near and dear to many people's hearts. Now, Jackson has had lots of experience, global experience in the accounting technology industry, and he's really passionate about helping firms enhance their efficiency and performance through automation and looking out for those bottlenecks and helping sort of optimize processes for maximum impact. So Jackson, I'll hand over to you, and really fascinated to hear how we can get most from our tech stacks.
Amazing. Charles, thank you so much, and for BOMA for hosting this session and having us. It's a pleasure. I know this session and the topic for this all came off the back of a session that we held at an event late last year as an in-live event, which was great. And that was all around exactly what Charles mentioned, adopting and getting the most out of your app stack, which hit really well. And so we wanted to try and replicate that today for the audience. So Charles, we're going to run that first poll, which is just firstly getting an understanding of when the last time was that you reviewed your internal tech stack. It's always good to get an understanding of whether it's something that we do semi-regularly, whether it's something that we haven't done for a while because it's a bit daunting. So we know kind of how to pace the session today. So while Charles is running with that, we'll kick off as well with a little bit about the business and where we come from, where I come from, and why we'd even be hosting this topic. So for those of you who don't know us, our company FuseWorks develops smart software for the accounting industry. And our mission is very straightforward. We aim to equip the industry with smart tools and software to enhance efficiency, save time, and really what we're trying to do is deliver a more meaningful experience both to your team and to your clients. But it's about what qualifies us to champion that. And our story starts with first-hand experience. So well over a decade ago, FuseWorks emerged from our founder's own accounting practice based here in Brisbane. So Melissa Voss, our co-founder and chartered accountant, alongside our head of product, Scott Barber, together have gained well over 4 decades of experience working really closely intertwined within the industry. Throughout that journey, as you can imagine, we have faced all the same types of challenges and disruptions, particularly when we do talk about that ever-evolving landscape of technology in this space. So we really do understand the challenges that accountants face, both from that positive and that negative lens. Interestingly, one of our big frustrations all those years ago that we encountered was the lack of viable industry-specific digital signing solutions that were available to us, which we found pretty shocking considering the sheer requirements that we have as an industry around document signing. So we went through massive exploration around the different options from the major providers, ones we won't name that we know, and we honestly found them all really lacking. So much so to the point that it drove us to develop our own solution. And this was all really then driven by a desire to offer something that really actually met our needs in this space, which was having something that was cost effective with local support, that offered features that we actually wanted to use, but most importantly, having more of a seamless experience around the existing software that we used in our practice. So led by the belief that we thought we could do things better, we pressed forward. FuseSign stands as a testament to the dedication that we have to the industry, and we now support well over 1,500 accounting firms across Australia and New Zealand, and we are a leading provider in the industry for good reason. Myself personally, as Charles mentioned, I've been working in and around accounting technology for nearly 10 years now, with cybersecurity, with managed service providers that are accounting specific. I've worked with cloud integrators, moving firms from more legacy systems to cloud-based software. And the last 4 years, I've been working with FuseWorks in the automation software space. So throughout my time, my passion for supporting firms through this sort of change has grown quite a lot. I'm very lucky to be able to work alongside, quite literally, I've worked with thousands of accounting firms, some of the best that the country has to offer, to be able to manage that change and develop new systems and processes with. So as you can imagine, there's not a lot that I haven't seen. Today, I wanted to take you through what I consider to be the most impactful and effective aspects of adopting change and adopting tech. And so hopefully today you take away a couple of things that you can implement in your own practice. Obviously, change isn't for everyone, whether we love it or not. We all have to go through it at some point. So the easier we make this process for you and your team, the better the journey and the better the outcome. Charles,
Jackson,
did we get
Yep. Yeah, can you see the poll results?
I can't actually, sorry.
Okay, let me walk you through. So The question was, when was the last time you reviewed your end-to-end tech stack? 33% said in the last year.
Perfect.
50% said 1 to 3 years, and 17% was over 3 years.
Wow, cool. So a real mix between that. So that's great. So there's a couple of things I might alter a little bit just to focus on that, but it's great to see some people are reviewing, but a few of you were probably in need of reviewing that tech stack. So hopefully what we pick up today is going to help us with that. Thanks for that, Charles. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Before we dive too heavily in as well, I think it's really important that we acknowledge some of the rapid change that we're seeing in the industry, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years. As technology evolves, so must the way that we adopt and integrate it into our practice. So since cloud technology took off, and I'm not going to sell you the dream of the cloud, but we have seen a significant shift. Firms are no longer adopting legacy or server-based applications at the same pace as they are with cloud solutions. So really gone are the days where we have to choose that single provider for all of our software needs, where the challenge there was really deciding which features and which pieces of functionality was most important to us and which of the shortcomings we were kind of willing to tolerate for the greater good. So cloud technology has really transformed that landscape by the way of option, which we all know can have, be a bit of a blessing and a curse. Having option is great, but it can also feel quite overwhelming. So now more than ever, you having the flexibility to choose from multiple providers and build an integrated app stack that best fits your needs for the team and for your clients is great. But with that flexibility comes that new challenge, which is implementation. So as cloud technology evolves, so does the process of adopting it. And truth be told, we as providers are still working out the best way to do that. We don't have a perfect solution or a one size fits all. Being deeply involved within the space, I can tell you that us as providers are constantly working on ways to create more of a seamless experience for those firms who are adopting whether one solution or multiple solutions at a time, and how we can support you to manage that ongoing as well. So it's becoming quite crucial, and why we do and we have made huge strides, we can't solve everything. And this is where your process and your structure becomes quite important. So having the right framework in place to do that, to ensure that you get the most out of what you're using and allowing the team to fully embrace what the cloud can offer without the overwhelm is really the goal. Where we do end up is in a position where we have this beautifully, fully integrated tech stack that allows us to gain all those huge efficiencies that we're constantly sold on by the cloud, while offering a really nice, seamless client experience as well. So it's really around whether the juice is worth the squeeze. I certainly think it is today. And what we're going to run through is taking you through, I guess, what I would consider to be the top 5 tips that I've learned working with these firms over the years in adopting and managing that change. Plus, also, I'm going to give you a quick example at the end to show you what that level of automation or that level of integrated solution can look like. So I've got a great little integration that I can show off today, which shows FYI and FuseSign working in tandem, which is a very common one that we see. I'll give a bit more context to that, but I want to show you what the end result can look like at the end of this as well. Now, to jump into it and start getting your brain thinking and ticking along a little exercise for yourself to have a look at your own internal process and identify if you were asked by a colleague or someone that was starting their business or about to embark on a huge change process from a firm that might have been using the same software for the last 20 years. And they said, hey, Charles, what are your top 5 tips? What do you recommend I really make sure I do and don't do throughout this process? So if you have a pen and paper, if you've got your notepad there where you can type along, have a list and list out 5 of your top ones. And it doesn't have to be what I've listed here. Some are certainly better than others. Hope for the best is one of my personal favorites, but trust me, I've heard that. But whatever resonates with you. So don't stick to the list, don't restrict yourself. And I think, Charles, as well, we might have a poll there for this as well, just to start gauging some.
Yep,
that'd be awesome.
I can watch that now.
Thank you. So I've listed a few of those on that poll, but there's an option there for others as well. It's always great to know what's really important to you when looking at implementing anything new in your business. And keep in mind, this isn't just accounting specific. We ourselves internally have just gone through quite a massive change when it comes to leveraging some new technology, enhancing some of our processes and some integrated solutions. And so we ourselves sit down and look at this and go through the exact same model that we're about to go through. So it's great to hear from anyone else what theirs are.
Just on the poll, everyone, if you do tick other, if you want to tick other, can you just put what that would be in chat, as the Microsoft Teams didn't enable us to have another with a text box. So yeah, just if you do tick other, pop it in chat so we can all see.
Awesome. Charles, is that something that you guys see quite a bit as well, like going through any change? Has there been any new changes for you recently, or any new sort of implementations or uptake in some new processes with the tech that you use?
Yeah, I mean, we went through a big one last year with our, I suppose, CRMs of sales and marketing platforms. So that was that was quite a lengthy process, and it definitely took a long time to even get the buy-in from the team. But once we did, then I think, we both engaged an external consultant and also had Project Champion. And I think, if we had sort of only done one of the two, we wouldn't have got the result we did. So yeah, we sort of chose multiple options to make sure that we delivered.
Yeah, that's great. And, like you said there as well, bringing the team along for the journey. That's a big one for me personally. I'll have people disagree with me on that one. But I think for us internally, and some of the best success that we've seen working with accounting firms, I think having the team buy-in, you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen or the opinion, but having them at least understand what's changing and why is crucial. Did you find that was an important aspect?
Yeah, because I think especially if you are having a piece of software and you're wanting people actually to use it, and not just use it for the first sort of month or two when you're looking over their shoulder, but actually sort of really buy in and get the value from it, which is probably what you sold the business on in the first place, was through the value, but it only works when people are using it. So yeah, you absolutely have to get that buy-in. Because you sort of can't, the days I think of mandating things from the top down, it just doesn't work anymore. Life and work-life balance has sort of moved on, and people will won't be scared into using something if they haven't got that buy-in.
That's right. And I think, people will find another way if they don't. So if we implement something and kind of force it, chances are if they object to it or they don't see the value in it, they're going to find a way around it. And then we've got team members, when maybe new team members are coming in who are learning from multiple people in the business, being taught different things to do different ways, and saying, well, no, do my way because my way is the best. But that isn't giving a great experience to people coming into the business as well, when you want to come across as like a unified front. So I think that's an really important piece, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more. But that's great to hear, Charles. I love that.
And shall I just I'll just close the poll, everyone. So if you just another 5 seconds, pop your vote in, then I'll share the results.
Yeah, even just like the top two there, Charles. Are there any main ones that stick out in those results?
So looking at it, so yeah, Project Champion, that was that was sort of nearly 70%. And engaged an external consultant, that was sort of mid-20s. A few people said other, and I'll just go and have a look in the chat, but luckily no one said hope for the best or assume the software provider will do everything, because we know they want. So from chat, co-op knowledgeable people from relevant departments, identify go, no go for critical implementation strategies. That was a great one. Another one, team buy-in critical, emotions run high with system changes. Oh yes, they do. And another one, make the pace challenging but not outlandish. Yes, you got to have sort of, you got to move things along, because you sort of stalling halfway through the change can doom it. But equally, you don't want to sort of run ahead of where people are comfortable, the pace they're at.
100%. I love that. What a great chat. They are all fantastic pieces of advice. And that's right, you need to keep progressing, but again, it's keeping the team along for the journey. The joys of what we do, it's not all peaches. Like, there are humps and bumps, there are roadblocks, and there are things like that. Not getting disgruntled and pulling the plug, and we do see that. I hear horror stories of a firm that takes 6-12 months to implement a piece of software. They get 1 week in and then they pull the plug out and they decide to go back to the old way. It's about keep moving on, bring the team along for the journey. So they're great pieces, and it covers off a bit of what I then consider my top 5, which we're going to jump straight into. Again, up for debate. My top 5 are not necessarily your top 5, but if you're struggling at going about this implementation, you can take 1 or 2 of these and implement it. I guarantee you it'll have a positive impact, because this is what the best of the best firms that I've worked with are doing. Number one, it's about planning to change. With the rapid change that we're seeing in this industry when it comes to innovation and progress in the release of new features, functionality, workflows, and the rest, it becomes really hard to keep up. So now more than ever, I think it's really important to sit down and assess what you're looking to do with a piece of technology or an improvement that you're looking to make and create a plan around that. So some of the questions that we're asking are, what problem are we trying to solve? What internal process improvements can we make to help with this? So before we throw technology at it, what are we doing at the moment that might be creating those bottlenecks? Who's involved? Are there any process changes that we can make that might actually solve the problem before we throw money at it or throw technology at it and try to plug it? Then it's about, if all the above fine, can we use any of our existing software to support this? With the rate in which we're developing, we've got 9 developers sitting over here that are releasing twice a week. We know that other providers are doing the same because we're challenged by the industry to do more, be more, integrate more, have more features. So we're doing that. We're out there doing it. If we're going to stay ahead of the curve and be a leading provider, that's what needs to happen. But what that means for you is that it can be quite hard to keep up to date with those new developments. So having a look at your existing software stack and saying, well, where would it make sense for this to be plugged in, or where would it make sense for this to be solved? Let's go and speak to our providers and see if there's either A, anything here that we've missed, or B, anything coming that might solve our issue. Because what you don't want to do is go and get another piece of software, implement it just to see that an existing provider has gone, here we are, here's a beautiful new piece of workflow that we've released, and now you don't necessarily need the other software that you've implemented. So have a look at your existing software stack first. And if no, what is available in the market that we can explore? There is more than one option across the board with the vast majority of app stack solutions now. So definitely do your research and see what's going to make the most sense for you. Once you've done that and you've gone through that exploration, assuming that the new technology is the solution, start asking, when is the best time to implement change? Spoiler, there is no great time to implement change or to implement tech. It's about trying to find the least impactful in terms of disruption in the business. So we love a start of the new financial year release into new tech because we can start from that point and start the new year how we want to. But sometimes we also don't want to wait 6, 8, 10, 12 months to go through and to do that. So carving out a bit of time where possible, and there's a few things we can do around that to get the best time that we can for minimal disruption throughout the year. Then who is it going to impact? Team? Is it going to impact clients? Is it going to be downtime? A client's going to experience something new that we need to be conscious of. Do we need to get some resources together to let them know that that's coming? And then it's about who's leading the charge. So as 70% of you said, who have we assigned or who do we have championing this change or this process internally that we're mixing up? And then the final question there is, what support are they going to need? So, and this is a good one because it's understanding where the software provider stops and where they start, right? There are 100% better software providers in the industry that support firms coming on board than there are others. And they kind of give the rest of us a bad name. But at some point, their support starts and their support stops. So it's understanding what that is, what they offer, and where the gaps are that need to be filled by you internally, or as some of you are doing, having an external provider to come in to fill those gaps. But before anything else, having a clear plan and a clear idea around what needs to happen, when and by who is crucial. Clarity around the project means that we can bring the team along for the journey and make sure that they know what's going on because it's clear cut from our perspective on what's happening. We're kind of not, putting a finger in the wind and saying, well, we're hoping this happens, but we don't really know. Number 2, my absolute personal favorite, and a lot of you have suggested this as well. It is so important to have someone driving change in your business. And more, we're commonly seeing new roles pop up, which are quite new. Well, not new, but definitely happening more and more. So, system and process manager, business improvement manager, head of innovation, all these roles within accounting firms whose job it is to solely look at how we can be getting more out of what we've identified in terms of room for improvement within the business. Now, of course, we're not all fortunate enough to be able to have that or even need it necessarily. But what I think that's really starting to tell us is that the need for that in business is becoming increasingly important because we need to look at the short-term and the long-term goals of the business for those improvements, which we're going to dive into a little bit more. Now, typically, This automatically falls in the lap if we don't have someone dedicated to it. Office manager, practice manager, or even a tech-driven director of the business that might take this on. And that's just because they kind of feel like they should. Although these people are key to making these shifts successful in the business, they don't always need to be the ones that are driving it, especially if it's not an interest that they have. I can tell you it's really challenging from a provider's perspective to work with a champion or a team member that has no desire or care for what we're doing. It's incredibly frustrating. And the results are exactly what you'd expect. Some of the best results I've had are working with team members who are junior admin or junior accountant or even cadets who are getting a lay of the land, and because they're passionate about technology or they're passionate about the function they're looking to solve, they give the best results. And again, it's making sure you have those key people there to support them in different facets, but making sure that you do have someone that's cares about what they're doing is really important. But regardless of who drives that, what is important from your end is to make sure that you go to bat for them. So managers, directors, partners, whatever your role is, support them and help align the broader team with positive communication about the change. I'm sure we've all experienced working in a business where from the top down, partners are complaining about changes that are happening, or they don't want to use this tech or that tech. And that has the direct implications that we think it does to the broader team. If you hate it, they're going to hate it. So having that positive mindset when you're making that shift, what are they going to gain from it? How is it going to directly impact their day to day? How can they then spend their time in the day knowing that they don't need to be involved in mundane, repetitive tasks or jobs? It's important that you bring your team along for the journey, as we've already identified, and not just throw that change in their face. Again, it's not about getting every single person's opinion on what they're doing or what you're doing, but it's letting them know that, hey, this decision's being made. We've heard from this person, this person, this person that are key in the success of that. This is how it's going to impact you and your day. The second there we mentioned earlier is around the short-term and long-term aspects to this. And that requires those periodic check-ins to ensure that the automations, the integrations, and the software in general is working as it's intended. And you're always, gaining back from them what you were sold to by people like me in sales that are telling you that it's the best thing since sliced bread. So don't just change a process or implement something new and then walk away and assume it'll be fine. Us humans are creatures of habit, and we will find a way to fall back into old habits if we're allowed to. My team who sit there and preach change management all day, every day, are guilty of this as well. So I suggest after the initial change, have your periodic check-ins. So is it three months, 6 months? Check in with your team and address any issues that may have come out that they're not telling you about, or coming to you to speak with you about. And importantly, be sure to really allow that to be someone's priority as well. So it's easy for them to want to prioritize something if they're interested. So as we mentioned before, having the right person in that role is crucial, or it certainly helps. But it's about making sure that they have capacity alongside their day-to-day, or instead of some of the jobs that they may have already. And I know that's easier said than done, but it cannot be something that they're just trying to fit in on top of their workload, because something will suffer. And if it's something they're not passionate about, then chances are that the implementation is going to suffer. The third thing there is celebrating the wins along the way. So again, leading from the top down, when you start to see those initial wins, whether it be the team taking a noticeable amount of time less to complete a task, or whether a client's come back with some positive feedback about an experience they've had with your team or with your tech, share that with the team. Make sure they know, because then it makes those painful points of change seem like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because they're getting direct results from that change that they're making. So promote within your teams, your Slack channels, share a snippet of the email. All those things go a long way, and never stop celebrating those wins along the way as well. Particularly if you're one of these firms that are doing a large shift or have recently done a large shift to a whole range of new products, it's really easy to get lost in the detail and not see some of the wins that you're getting. So make sure that's front of mind for you as well. Number 3, this is all around being open to evolving, adopting, and adapting. You're already 2 steps ahead by being on webinars like this, but what our industry has really taught us is that while having business, every business has its own unique identity, the process of evolving and adapting isn't a singular journey. So whether you're in earlier phases of business or whether you're more established and you're making a big change A lot of the challenges that you're going to face in adopting new tech and refining those processes have almost definitely all been experienced and solved before you. So while your business might seem uniquely challenged, the truth is it probably isn't. And we can thank the early adopters for that because they've gone through all the heartache of making all these changes, and we can benefit from that. So having a real mindset to evolving and adapting to that and to new processes means that we can leverage the experience from others to build a more meaningful and smoother experience moving forward. Ultimately, by learning from those, it means that you can focus on what sets your business apart and what your unique benefits are to the industry or to the broader community based on those hard-earned lessons from others in the space. So again, joining webinars like this is a great example of where you can go and communicate, and people are putting in the chat things that they follow and they do. That's beautiful, all in a similar position to you. But keep in mind, our industry, especially across Australia and New Zealand, are absolutely spoilt when it comes to educational webinars, industry and networking events, user groups, collaboration groups, and the rest, all done for this exact benefit. So get out there, LinkedIn, Facebook, the groups, follow your providers online as well, because they're the ones that are normally attending, putting them on and appearing at these different events. It's a great place to go and communicate and collaborate with your broader community. Never assume that your way is the only way and that your challenges are completely unique, because the likelihood is that they are not. On to my fourth one. So imperfect data is okay. Again, another bit of a controversial one, but I stand by this. So one of the most common reasons that we find firms hesitate to adopt new software or integrate apps within each other, even if the decision has been made internally that yes, we need to do this, the value is completely clear, it's the concerns around the data cleanliness. But the reality is your data will never be perfect. So don't let progress be stalled by and I see this all the time, a 12-month data cleanse project that some poor team member of yours is stuck with having to do and take on because they've drawn the short straw. My advice is to be open and honest with your provider that you're looking to move to or that you're looking to integrate systems with about the state of your data. Let them help assess whether it is truly an issue. Fortunately, and this again, big piece from the software provider's perspective, we nowadays have more tools at our disposal than we ever have before to help manage that data change and to help clean up some of that data upon migrations and the rest of it. So in most cases, it's not a showstopper. In the situations where you find that a pretty major data cleanup is required, there are great businesses like your FGS Advisory, Puzzle Solutions, Clarity Street, all in which support firms across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK in tackling a lot of these challenges. Of course, there's costs associated with that, but the resource savings and the time that you get back is massive. So I highly recommend, engaging with a provider to support you with that. They also support with the end-to-end process of actually doing the migrations, implementing, training the team. So their services are very broad. And it sounds like a few of us on the call already have used or use providers like that. But even if you just need a data cleanse, they will support you with that because they've got all the tools to do that. And the fifth one here is around testing, training, and evolving. So now that we have all of these amazing foundations in place that we need to successfully adopt these tech, these automations, these changes, it's important that we acknowledge what makes that long-term success. And we mentioned this before, but the way that we do this is really by treating technology like it's a team member. They need to be given that time and attention to grow in that role, which is a funny thing to say. But again, because of the speed and rapidness that we're evolving and changing and growing as providers, it's important that we check in. So thankfully today we make it a lot easier, but do so work with your team to solidify what that long-term plan looks like. Referring again to point number 2, having a project champion is important, and having them managing that process initially is key, of course, but what are their KPIs around ensuring the long-term success? Are there any KPIs at all around the long-term success? At what points are we checking in with the team to ensure things are working as intended? Have they had enough training? Are the automations and integrations and workflows in place even effective for what we're trying to solve? Are they causing more headaches? These are the things that we want to check in on. So it's important to ensure the team member or members have that capacity long-term to support that. So any new processes and so on are not falling by the wayside and they end up, again, going back to old habits and we don't pick up on it until a year later, in which case people are disgruntled. So ultimately, this is what allows us to evolve. Having an open forum around, hey, how's that change going? What else can we be doing? Allows you to spot for other bottlenecks. If you've got an open context, open forum where people can come and give that feedback, you'd be surprised what it creates. So don't allow the comfortability to take back over. Keep that conversation open. Be careful with too many cooks in the kitchen again, but having your key people in there that are able to at least identify what that looks like and where there might be other opportunities is really important for the long-term success of evolving with the space in the way that we're moving. Amazing. I'm very conscious of my time. I wanted to spend a few minutes just then again showing you through what that looks like in practice. So I've got a great little automation. I'm just going to pause here for a second first before I jump in. Charles, anything in the chat or in the Q&A that's worth mentioning?
Look, no questions at the moment, but I think just a good time to remind everyone, if you do have a question, now's the time to pop it in the Q&A or the chat. I'll keep an eye on them, and then Jackson can address them in the next few minutes.
Perfect. Awesome. So what I want to show you today, as mentioned at the beginning of the session, is one of our really common automations that we help clients adopt is connecting FuseSign and FYI. So quickly to recap, FuseSign is our electronic signing platform, which is designed to host documents to send out for client signing, which gives them a beautiful platform to go in, sign their documents, and hopefully get in and out within a couple of minutes. And FYI is a document management solution, by far one of the best in the market, in my humble opinion, which allows for a ton of integrations with other industry apps and a lot of automations that help to clean up and automate some of those really manual tasks. So what I want to show you today is a very brief overview of what that looks like. So how we can send documents for signing from FYI via FuseSign, give the client a beautiful experience. And the most valuable thing there from an internal efficiency point is because we have the link between the two systems, it means that once all those documents have been signed and finalized from the client, everything automatically files back into FYI under the client group, ready for us to take that next step to prepare to lodge or whatever it might be. So let me bring this up here now and we'll show you what that all looks like. So this is my FYI environment. I'm not going to give you the full nuts and bolts of the demo, but just a very brief overview. This allows us to come into our FYI environment, and currently I'm just under my client group here, and I want to send out a few documents for my group to go through and to sign. So I can grab my documents, select for signature. FYI also integrates with a lot of the practice management solutions in the market, so your MYOB, your APS, your XPM, which means we can leverage all that single source of truth for your contact data, which is great. FuseSign is exactly the same. So we are a fully standalone product. There's no need for integrations, of course, but this is just showing off one of the many that we offer. So we also do directly integrate with your XPM, your FYI, your APS, your MYOB for all of your contact data. So we can come in, bring in who we're wanting to send to, an email template as to what we're wanting to say in the email that goes to the client. And this might be in relation to their year-end accounts, and we can create that link. What that's going to do is tell FuseSign, hey, we've got a bundle of documents ready to go. Can you go through, do any of your final little adjustments and send it out for signing? So this is now our beautiful FuseSign environment, and this is where we can come through, make any of those changes and send it out for signing. So we have our email template that's been brought through. So what are we saying to the client in that email? We have a host of other email templates as well if we need to change that for any reason. Great little automations like having the ability to set a due date. So that way the system knows to send automatic reminders out between these dates and these times. So again, one less thing for the team to track and manage. We're able to go through and have the system do that for us automatically without any human intervention. When we come down, we can see FYI has already brought through our documents and our single recipient here. And I'll just bring this back to none. But what we can also do here is add multiple recipients. So multiple recipients, multiple documents that we can handle. And that way, if we were sending to a family group, we've got the ability and the flex to be able to do that. So let's say it's mum, dad, and child in this case. We can reshuffle our documents here as well. So that way we've got them in the order that we might think makes the most sense. And the next thing we can do here as well, and one of our biggest feature sets, is giving you the ability to nominate who in the group is able to view, sign, and not view each document within that pack. And this is quite a unique feature set for us because we had a ton of frustration around this many moons ago in practice. So what that allows us to do is to say, well, realistically, the cover letter, we're happy for all parties to view it. But if we really only included the adult child to sign their tax return, anything else they're left to none on means that they don't see that document as a part of their pack. So that's why we call it a bundle of documents. You can get everything in here for the family group, segment out the privacy as to who needs what, and send it out in one bundle of documents. That way your team are only putting together one pack and the client's only ever going to see one email with all their documents ready to sign. So we might say the checklist is for mum and dad. We want them to view that tax return, but we don't need them to sign. The final step here is who needs to sign where. So all the things that you'd expect to see in terms of different stamp options, we have the option to include here. And this just depends on what we need the client to do at this point. So we might say as general, we need a signature to populate when I sign, and we also need the date to automatically populate there as well. And we might say the same for Amelia. So signature and today's date. So pretty simple. We can also do things like fill in text boxes. So that way, if we need a change of address or some extended information, it gives Amelia the option to go through and to fill that out on the run and send that back to us once it's all complete. We get into the next one and we come into our other document, and really the process from here is the same. What we can do with these as well, again, looking at other ways that we can automate this process. And ELD is a great example to use for this, where we know every time we bring this document in, despite which client it's for, signatures and dates are populating in the same place every time. So we can go through and set that up once, save it as a template. That way, the next time myself or someone else in the team comes in, we have the option to just bring in that same template, assume who the signers are, and we can populate those ready to go. So even for the more manual parts of this, we have a lot of automation abilities, which is great. So once the documents are tagged and ready to go, we can send it out. Now, we have the option as a final piece here as well to go through and to set a type of authentication per recipient. So this is great where we have clients that share an email address, because it means that the unique ID point becomes that cell phone or that mobile number, and we can have shared email addresses, which is super handy. For kind, we might not have his number, or we're not concerned about what we're sending him, so we might just leave that nice and simple and have no two-factor. The other cool way that we can use that data is by sending an SMS notification. So it comes from the firm with a text to say, hey, Charles Accounting Firm has some documents for you to sign. Click the link and sign off on your documents. So any device, anywhere at any time, those documents can be signed. When we send, everything is branded custom to the business as well. So your colors, your logos, and we can send that out. So where FuseSign goes into is our active dashboard. And this is where we have like an electronic mail book of everything that we have out for signing. So a full tracking of what we need at what stage that it's in across every team member in the business as well. So it's our one-stop shop, whether we're using FuseSign standalone or integrated, to see what we've got outstanding and what's been signed and complete. Now for the client, absolutely crucial that we get this right. So a lot of our clients come across from either an existing signing platform. So similarity is sort of important. We don't want them having to relearn a new system, but a lot of firms coming across from never touching digital signing in the first place. So it is very important that we have a bit of a follow the bouncing ball idea around this. So when they come in, if this is the first time I've used FuseSign, the process is the same. All I need to do is to click to open that up. If I've set that two-factor authentication, I request that code, and all I'm doing here is popping in that number to verify myself. Again, the two-factor is optional. I personally love it, but that is an option for you there as well. Then we come into our documents that we're sending for signing, or we've sent for signing. This first document was a view only, so we make it pretty hard for clients to get lost. The only thing they can do here is to click next. They come into their signing documents. They now have the option to sign or reject, depending if they're happy to. The option to draw their signature, or they can just type, and that will populate their signature for them automatically. Moving into our next document, same idea. We go down to our signing place, happy to sign and populate that signature. and we can complete the pack. So making that sign-on experience really seamless for the firm there, which is ideal. So what I'm going to show you now is the sign-on experience is done. And what we want to see is those documents now push back automatically into FYI, which again, that great automation comes in. So this is my active pack, and I'm just going to finalize it now. Again, I'm not going to go through a full demo of all the nuts and bolts today, but happy to catch up one-on-one and show you through it in a bit more detail. Again, what I want to show you here is how we can push this back automatically and remove quite a few of those manual steps you would otherwise have by coming in, downloading the pack, filing it away, renaming it, putting it where it needs to go. So depending on how fast the sync is today, it always decides to take its time a little bit more through live webinars and demos. But we can see we've got our documents here that we sent out. As we refresh, and it'll need a couple of minutes to see if it comes back through, what we'll see is the documents come back as signed. And what FYI does, and it's a great little functionality piece, is we've got our copy here that's signed, but what they do is they thread the document. So now we can see we've got our original tax return that we sent out, and we've also got our signed copy that's just come back to me here. And if we preview that, we can see that we've got the signature and we've got the digital certificate with all the information we need to be able to verify that digital signature effectively. And there's a ton of automations that can then run off the back of that. So FYI do a lot with things like the workflow. So once that comes back as client signed as opposed to pending, it can automatically create tasks for the team to go through and to prepare to lodge or whatever that next step might be. So what would otherwise be quite a few manual steps, we've reduced right back to make it really simple for the team and ensuring that nothing is missed, which is also crucial in this process. As I said, I won't go through too many more of those pieces, but that gives you one example of many of how we automate parts of the process when it comes to using an integrated solution. Charles, we might run that now if there's anyone that would like to see a little bit more around FuseSign, whether you are an FYI client or not. Again, completely standalone platform, but we integrate with a huge amount of the industry apps. So if you would like to see FuseSign in action, we're happy to reach out. We're happy to help and show you through it. But I think we have a poll there, Charles.
Yeah, it should have come up.
Cool. Perfect.
Cool. And I can just see people filling that out, which is great. Does anyone have any questions for Jackson? I know we've touched on a whole range of both sort of tips and advice right through to sort of looking at some of the software themselves. Now is a great time, obviously, to ask those questions and maybe sort of get some feedback to see what some other of your peers are thinking. So I think, Jackson, we've probably got another minute or two where you could wait for the question.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. And look on our socials as well. Like we are out and about quite a lot. So if you are interested in, I guess, being more part of those community groups where we do host as well as attend quite a few things, which is all based around the collaboration, what other firms are doing, how people are doing things better than others. We post about that sort of thing all the time. We're either hosting or a part of the webinars in a similar facet as well. So yeah, definitely worth jumping on and seeing what we're doing there.
Fantastic. Well, look, it doesn't look like we've had any questions at the moment, but it does look like a couple of people are keen for you to follow up with them. Jackson, any closing thoughts today?
No, just a huge thank you again, Charles, for having us. We really connected well with BOMA and at the event that we met at last year, and we hear amazing things about what the BOMA team do. Yeah, really happy with being here today and being able to partner with you, Charles. So thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. Look, thanks so much, Jackson, for joining us. Thanks for giving up your time, everyone. Really appreciate it. I'll just close that poll. If you haven't had a chance to do it, do it. Otherwise, I'll pass those any leads on to Jackson and see you all next time and have a great afternoon.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone.